Anytime I can give you a hand, just let me know.
And when Fisto offers you his hand, boy, that's a big offer.
As I mentioned before, my favorite new ally of He-Man's in the second season was Fisto. Sure, he dresses like a pirate, has a giant hand, and his voice is just Lou Scheimer with a different voice filter.
What? I'm Chloe.
But he does have an interesting past. Why? Because he used to be a villain. Fisto's backstory is explained in the episode Fisto's Forest. The episode begins with Fisto saving a little kid who looks exactly like Chad from Double-Edged Sword from a frickin' bear. He then begins to tell his story about his encounter with He-Man, which changed his ways. Under Skeletor's orders, Fisto stopped the river by capturing an elf lord. Stopping the river is bad news for a farmer who goes off to try and find and stop Fisto. His daughter, named Reyna, goes to plead for help from the king. When Reyna and company return, Fisto and his giant spider Arachna capture Reyna's father. The heroes keep getting stopped by Fisto until they finally learn where Fisto has hidden all the water from the river. Teela, Orko, and Reyna are trapped by Fisto, but a log falls on him. Reyna manages to squeeze through the wood crate and even saves Fisto by giving him a rope attached to the log, which allows him to pull himself free. After He-Man shows up, Fisto helps him save his friends in gratitude. However, Skeletor sees that Fisto has switched sides and so turns his spider Arachna gigantic. He-Man goes toe-to-toe with the spider and finally manages to free the Elf Lord and Reyna's father, restoring the forest to its former glory. Fisto's Forest is overall one of the better episodes from the start of Season 2. This episode instantly made me like Fisto, who without context would have seemed like a really dumb character. The fact that Filmation decided to go through the trouble of showing him change as a character is what made this episode so great. It also has great animation and looked very solid despite some rather heavy character model reusage. The dialogue between Fisto and the little boy is a little weak, but on the overall, it's a cool episode.
That little girl left me trapped, but she treated me like a real person, like a friend.
Now, Fisto had a few cameo appearances along Season 2, but his second best appearance was actually at the end of Season 2. In the episode The Games, an alien race called the Bandari want to see whether good or evil is a superior power and announce a game to settle the score, choosing the most powerful warriors to represent both sides.
Here the powers you call good and evil are eternally in conflict.
Boy, he can say that again.
Of course, normally this would mean He-Man and Skeletor going head-to-head, but instead the Bandari end up choosing Fisto and Spikor. Fisto gets chosen because Adam is in the middle of sword practice with Teela and is prevented from transforming when the Bandari make their choice. Skeletor, of course, wants to cheat and so makes Spikor use a device called the Evil Geyser to make him more powerful.
Yes, we'll win this game the old-fashioned way, the tried and true way. We'll cheat.
The actual game has Fisto and Spikor chasing after shiny game pieces, each worth 100 or 2,000 points each. The Bandari will allow the villains to use whatever means they see fit.
Then we can do whatever we want.
Of course, this means the villains cheat with Beastman and Merman helping Spikor get almost every game piece while sabotaging Fisto's efforts. When Fisto almost becomes crushed by Skeletor's weight magnifier, He-Man steps in to help, and the Bandari agree to let him take his place. He-Man manages to even up the game by collecting the more valuable red game pieces, and finally he and Spikor go head-to-head, climbing a huge tree. Spikor nearly falls and He-Man helps him out. Spikor then immediately crosses He-Man and makes him fall. In the end, He-Man manages to shake the tree enough to get the final game piece and win. The Games has a rather ham-handed plot setup. The idea of aliens pitting the heroes and villains against each other is a cool idea, but I think it's a bit much that they talk about it as an intentional game between good and evil. However, The Games is probably one of the best episodes from the entire series from the animation point of view. There's just so much detail with facial expressions and action animations, it makes this episode look quite unique. Fisto is really only a relevant character for the first half of the episode, but I like it that they show a bit of his character and how he at first laments that the Bandari will probably choose He-Man instead of him. This episode is also, hands down, the best episode appearance by the character Spikor. In fact, he hogs up almost all of the new animation on this episode. Spikor was introduced towards the end of Season 2 and didn't get many appearances. In this episode, he just goes crazy with great facial and physical animations. He's also depicted as clearly the most dim-witted of Skeletor's lackeys, and his unique way of speaking just makes him really sympathetic at times.
Beastman! Get me! down.
The Games is an absolute must-see for all its crazy good production quality. Next time we'll look at some of the awesome character-centric episodes. Until then, I have the power, so can you. Hey, wanna help me decide what to do for the final video of the He-Man Season 2 reviews? Why not join the forums at itstelltime.net. You can also discuss movies, TV, anime, video games, and much more. See you all on the next one.